Howdy everybody, welcome back to IT 415. We're going to do a little more lecturing and some looking at some stuff, and so I think what I'd like to start with first is the hands-on. So if you got your hands-on ready, let's kind of just take a look at that stuff, and I'll need to switch to the overhead camera because I'm going to get out some equipment here. Alright, I had one of these last class. Ordinary Netgear router. I have another one. Whoops. Should have brought the stand, huh? Oh, this one doesn't have an antenna on it. And here's another one. Very similar, right? Alright, on your home router, this set of ports is a switch. So I got one switch here and one switch here. On your hands-on, you had 5 port switches. That's just because that's the ones I found on Amazon. They had 5 ports. So yours has 5. This extra port here is going to be a router port, and we're not going to talk about routers until much later. Well, not much later, at least later today, if not next week. So if I'm going to construct a network, I have cables like so. So I can get all these on here. Put that over there for now. I have cables like this, and you want to keep your cables nice and tangle free, so we wrap them in these sort of knotted things, because it might be a pain to retie it, but if you have these just in a pile, if you have them in a box and they're together, or if they're loose like this, the things tend to get caught. These little, you can hardly see that, that little plastic thing on the end will get caught on other wires and break off. Alright, so here are my switches. So I've got 2 switches right here. If I want to plug a PC into a switch, I take Mr. RJ45 patch cable, one end goes in here, and this other end, it plugs into the back of the PC. So that will just go off camera for now. If I want to connect more than, so I have 4 devices here, if I want to connect more than 4 devices to my network, I need another switch. So this network supports 4 devices. This network supports how many devices? You might think 8, but I have to plug a cable here to here, which is to connect the 2 switches together. So if I have these 2, how many devices? Now I have 6 devices. Okay? What if I brought another, oops. See, I should have brought another thing, huh? What if I brought another switch that looked exactly the same? So if I have another switch right here, how many devices am I looking at? So I'd have 3 on here. How many would be on here if I had this other switch? I could put 2 because now I need to connect the other switch together. And that's why we have 8. So there's going to be 3 here, 2 here, 3 here. So if we drew our diagram, and you guys can get used to these. I might draw something like this. Okay, that's a lovely switch. And I might put like an A on it to be switch A. And typically I would want to, if I was really worried about what things were plugged into what ports, I would need to draw each port on it. And I believe you were instructed to do, what were you guys instructed to do? I got 5 ports on each of my switches. 8 computers and a printer. Oh, and a server. So I got 10 total devices.
1 server, 1 printer.
Okay, so I have 8 PCs, 1 server, and this is pretty normal. I hope you all realize that a printer is going to be on your network probably, especially in an office. That's just normal stuff. What we don't have here is eventually I'm going to have a router. Well, I'm not going to bring it out. Normally that'll take up another port because I'm going to have to connect over to the router. Now I put 3 on here because even though there's 10 devices here, I know I'm not going to get away with just 2 switches. We can see that, right? Because right away I have to connect the 2 switches together. So that leaves me 8 and on this network. In order to get the full coverage, I need that. So I have 4 devices I can connect here, 3 devices here, 4 devices here. So ooh, I have 11. That's 1 to spare. Okay? That's nice. Now, Just a thought. You could have designed it anyway. You can plug anything anywhere. We'll talk later about how this switch is sort of in the middle. We'll call it the core. That's the word we're going to call it. This is our middle of our switch. Normally you want to hang off the important things in the middle. That looks like a server, doesn't it? Watch my printer. This is awful. So there's the page of paper. And you put a box around it. That's a nice printer. You guys see my nice printer? Look at that. I got an empty spot there. Then I'm going to put PCs on here. And the idea is, even though these switches might all be sort of in one closet somewhere, I want to have or keep in mind where my middle switch is. And we'll talk more about that later. All right, so your hands-on should have looked something like this. Something to remember is network devices. We'll just put only. Okay? When you're building a network, you need to use network devices only. That means switch, that's a network device. Router, which I didn't even give you any, but there's really not much else. Okay? I cannot, oops, network devices only. Okay? A network, we'll just say can't be connected using a PC or a server. Okay? I've always said already these are all hosts, right? Multi-purpose. You guys remember that? The only thing a server is, it looks a little different. Processor might be a little more powerful, it might have bigger disk drives, but it's still the same kind of computer as a PC, just has different applications on it. So what I've seen here's wrong, okay? If I have a server, I can't connect a server to switches and expect that, you know, over here, and I have another thing over here, and maybe I put my printer over here. Okay, this is a no. Now we try if one of the red pens works. Oh, there you go. So server is no. We don't use a server to connect our network together. We connect switches to each other. That's fun. Well, that red doesn't really show up red, but that's okay.